Hi everyone, in this new recording I want to apply the rubric that I just posted on Google Classroom to the Exemplar essay. The Exemplar I posted yesterday in Google Classroom. It is an exemplar of the Reagan Eulogy speech, and overall it got a very high score. I got an 8 on a 9-point rubric in the past, but I want to apply it to give you an idea of what I'm looking for in the rubric, and you can kind of hopefully apply some of these ideas to your own writing. So I'm going to read the paragraph, the first paragraph, the introduction out loud, and then go back to the rubric, talk about it, and then I'll do the first body paragraph. Okay? So when I'm looking at the introduction, what I'm mostly looking at is a rhetorical situation. I'm looking for those essential parts of rhetorical situation that are integrated that I talked about in the last video, and you're looking to see how thoughtful it can be in that they're accurate, thoughtful, integrated. I'm also looking for a preview of the strategies that the writer will be analyzing. I'm looking for that in the thesis statement. And throughout the whole thing, I'm looking at clarity. So words and sentences, how clear it is to communicate ideas. Okay, so the introduction is kind of your first impression and looking for a good first impression. So, wrong screen. Okay. So to start, the writer says the Cold War can be thought of as one of these most intense, they meant to say the most intense times in American history. Tensions were high and people even turned on family in an attempt to subdue communism. In Margaret Thatcher's eulogy about Ronald Reagan, she elucidates Reagan's astounding ability to unite a previously divided nation. Reagan's leadership, according to Margaret, inevitably was the key that got the globe out of the Cold War, where he defied many in his process to do so. So end of intro. Okay, well here's what I'm thinking so far. They really focus on context, which I think is most important in this whole speech. It really is about communism and the Cold War, so I think that's very thoughtful. I like that. Let's see, they get to the purpose of the message a little bit, not as much as I would like to see, really. So they talk about the speaker a little bit, Margaret Thatcher, and the connection to Reagan, just briefly. That could be a little bit stronger. What they don't do is they don't have a thesis statement that states those strategies. So I'd say right here they're at about proficient, because they do have some deep thoughtfulness, but they're missing some key parts there. So because they don't have that thesis, I don't know yet what strategies they're going to be analyzed. They don't say. We'll look at that later. Clarity, I think it's mostly really well worded. I think it is mostly thoughtful. There are a couple places where it kind of slips up a little bit, so I'm thinking between these two right now. Okay, let's go ahead to the first body paragraph. So in the first body paragraph, so I'm going to be looking for more here, rhetorical situation, because they didn't address it so much in some parts, but obviously I'm looking right here for analysis. I'm looking for strategies that they're identifying as accurate and the thoughtfulness, okay, and then of course the clarity throughout. Okay, it is noted that in the time period that Margaret references to, America was in great turmoil with WMDs, also known as weapons of mass destruction, lined up to destroy the world on both sides of the fight. Okay, before I go on real quick, I want to mention this. Twice they mention somebody by their first name. We don't want to do that. Hopefully you remember that. Also, they reference this, it's this called an initialism. WMDs, you're supposed to state the whole thing out first, weapons of mass destruction, and then after that you can just use the abbreviation. Okay, continuing on. Thatcher establishes incredible diction in her piece to illustrate how Reagan's personality had a large part to do with decreasing the Red Scare tension that was ravaging the country. Okay, so pretty much right here, this part right there, it's not letting me highlight that, but this is the topic sentence, mostly right here in the second sentence. So I see here that they're analyzing diction mostly, and I really like that they say, okay, this is what they're analyzing, and they give why Thatcher is using it right here. So I think that's very strong. Excuse me. They also set it up right here with some context. So again, they give more context. they have the strategy with the purpose. That's very strong. I like that. And we can see some strong diction and syntax really throughout, right? Ironically, their diction is strong and analyzed. The diction of Thatcher. Okay, moving on here. So we're looking at their first evidence of the strategy of diction and also their commentary. And we're going to see lots of small examples of evidence along with commentary that are integrated throughout. Okay, so they say, pursuing with, quote, lightness of spirit, end quote, Reagan had the ability to, quote, embody another great cause, end quote, to give off the perception that the leader of this free nation wasn't afraid to take on the challenge of defeating the, quote, heart of the evil empire, end quote, end of sentence. Now, let me just note here, this is very sophisticated use of evidence. They have 3 small pieces of evidence in a single sentence along with commentary that is integrated throughout, right? So far, this first sentence of analysis I think is very strong. We see it in this area right now in the exceeds. Okay, that was just one sentence. Let's keep going though. Good diction, of course, too, throughout. Thatcher's diction establishes that Reagan was always optimistic and confident of his ability to do good. She demonstrates causality when she says, quote, policies won converts from every class and every nation, end quote, to illustrate how Reagan's leadership is what helped unite other countries against the horrifying acts of communism. Okay, another good example of evidence to support diction, and then some good commentary here about why she was doing this. Okay, we have a transition here. However, so we're adding addressing some of the complexities to the argument, right? And this complexities, addressing that, that's where we have some sophistication. So this transition here signals an addressing of these complexities. However, there were many people that doubted Reagan. Even before his presidency, there were people that thought he wouldn't be capable of leading a nation in a time of crisis. For the purpose of deconstructing those beliefs, Thatcher juxtaposes thinking and prediction with what actually happened. Okay, so I want to note here, the writer of this example essay, they add another strategy that they're analyzing inside of this. We're in the same body paragraph, right? So this is juxtaposition, and this is, look on your blue sheet, this is a really good strategy to use. So using the diction and juxtaposition together. So here's the example that the writer uses. My computer's going slow here. Quote, others prophesized the decline of the West. He inspired America and its allies with renewed faith in mission to freedom, end quote. Shows 2 contrasting ideas in an attempt to show how Reagan was much more effective than people thought he would be. Margaret Thatcher probably says this because she is a very close ally with the United States and wants to maintain this relationship given the fact that the United States is a new world power. Okay, so this commentary right here, I want to point out, is very detailed and has lots of depth. So talking about why Thatcher uses this strategy of juxtaposition, diction and juxtaposition, and really gets the idea, like this is the depth here, this is the sophistication of the writer, that this eulogy was more than about Reagan. It was about the politics. This is about world politics. It was about the relationship between the United States and between the United Kingdom. And she used this speech to kind of help her politically, which is, again, this is very sophisticated. That's why we're seeing this as an exceeds. Okay? By showing how great of a leader Reagan was, she showed that the Great Britain and U.S. alliance would be effective. Okay, so again, adding more commentary there. So to sum it up here, again, we see lots of thoughtfulness and depth here. So, and really, which just comes from that rhetorical situation, and it comes from the writer's background knowledge about history in this case, and the Cold War and things like that. Really, just emphasizing the importance of background knowledge and reading and all that kind of stuff. And then throughout, we really see it's pretty clear the words and sentences and phrases throughout. So I think I see that as exceeds both in both of these areas. Rhetorical situation is probably proficient here, but overall it's a good exemplar. Okay, so I'm going to stop there because I'm going kind of long. Hopefully this is at least a little bit helpful. Let me know when you have questions and concerns. I do have office hours, quote unquote office hours, later today. So for the first time, we'll see how that goes. All right, talk to you later. Bye.